Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Daily Canon Tactics Board. Stephen Bradley here, bringing you the tactical tweaks and quirks that came from Arsenal's fantastic run of away fixtures. Winning at Aston Villa 4-2 and then beating Leicester 1-0 in one of the most comfortable wins ever seen in the Premier League, despite the scoreline. Over the next 15 minutes or so, I'll be bringing you through why Arsenal were able to win both games, the way they had to tweak their system to fit in a couple of different players, and why the future bodes well for one player, but maybe not so much for another, but maybe that was all part of the process all along. If you do like this sort of video, please feel free to leave a like. Comment down below if you see something in these games that I missed. We've got a great community of people who love getting engaged and talking football. And if you do want these videos in your inbox on a regular basis, hit the subscribe button. Any engagement, any sort of, like, support, anything like that is always of great support. And thanks very much for your time. And yeah, Arsenal Leicester, a weird game, only in the sense that it was maybe the first game I've seen, certainly this season and in quite some time as an Arsenal fan, where a team purposely set up not to play football. And what I mean by that is that Leicester City had no intention of attacking. None. They had intention of counter-attacking, but they had no intention actually of having the ball. And like one shot. Like, this is the lowest XG any Premier League side has had since 2008. Like, a ridiculous stat. And that's, 30 yards out, not even a threat on Ramsdale's goal. And the reason for that was twofold. One, it was the way just Leicester set up, where it was 4-3, and this almost with Iheanacho just running around basically. And they did get opportunities of the counter, but as Dewsbury Hall put it himself, anytime they got the ball, there was a Red Sea. They would get forward, they would get the ball to around here, and even though it would start off like this, by the time Tete, Iheanacho, and Barnes had made it like a 3-on-2, by the time Barnes had caught in, Jorginho got back, Zinchenko had gone back, Jack had gone back, Odegaard got back, White had got back, Saka got back, Trossard got back, Martinelli got back, and by the time two or three blue shirts had come up front, Arsenal were in a defensive formation again, and Leicester had nothing. And so, because of this, Leicester felt very. The word is almost disengaged. They didn't feel like they were in a game. They just felt like they were there to make up the numbers. They were there to make sure that they didn't concede, and that their job was to make sure that Arsenal didn't score. And they didn't do a very good job with that either, because this team, yes, it's missing James Maddison, and yes, it's missing Jamie Vardy, but I don't think people expected Jorginho to be this much of an impact on the way Arsenal play. But you can tell why Pep Guardiola loves him. You can tell why Mikel Arteta loves him. It's because he is, in essence, a younger version of themselves. He is a defensive midfielder who has a right foot of a putter, in that every pass is perfect. Every pass is not just the right length, not just the right line, but the right weight. So that if he wants the ball to trickle to Saka, it'll trickle to Saka. If he wants to smash the ball to Saka's feet from 30 yards, he'll smash the ball to Saka's feet from 30 yards. It's the weight of pass and the line of pass which makes him so dangerous in a team like Arsenal, because when this was Thomas Partey has a fine passing array on him. He's a fine passer of the ball, but he's not as intricate in any way, shape, or form as Jorginho is. And as a result, when Zinchenko would push in and Xhaka would push up and Odegaard would push up, when they would line up like this, when Jorginho is there, usually there's one pass available to him, maybe two passes available to him. There should be. It should be either back to Zinchenko or maybe to Odegaard. But what Jorginho was able to do so well is that if he wanted to find Trossard, he could, and if he wanted to find Xhaka, he could. And as a result, because he's able to find those harder passes, those more intricate passes, those riskier passes in between players like that, where they think it's closed off, but he'll still find a gap. Because of that, Dewsbury Hall, because Barnes was told basically to stick on Ben White, Dewsbury Hall's job was to mark Jorginho. But Jorginho was so good at getting the ball and giving it away, giving it to someone else immediately, that Dewsbury Hall was made irrelevant. And thus now you've got Tete, who wasn't really involved at all. He was just sitting there waiting on a counter. Gabriel Saliba marking Iheanacho. Zinchenko would just wander up the field. And Ndidi would come over here because to try and mark the three. And now Jorginho's here, and now this is on. And every time Zinchenko got the ball, it went to Jorginho. He'd get pressed, sometimes from Iheanacho, but very rarely. And it would get to Saka. He would find that pass and he would play it quickly. And Odegaard would drop back and Christensen would try and mark him and had a torrid time all game. But Arsenal's ability for the ball to get to here and then to pass it to Odegaard, then Ben White would offer, sometimes he'd offer an overlap and sometimes he wouldn't, and Barnes would come back. But Jorginho would then come back here, Zinchenko would scoot over, Gabriel would come here, and Martinelli would come back. And the speed which the ball would, by the time Dewsbury Hall's coming here, and Didi's coming back, Pratt's coming back, and they're all trying to compress over here. By the time they've done this, Saka's already got the ball to Jorginho, who's already given it to Zinchenko, who's already given it to Martinelli, who's now free. And it was just this ability to whip the ball across at speed that Leicester had no chance at being able to cover because they didn't have the ability to respond. They were too busy worrying about their man. Pratt was too busy worrying about Xhaka, and Didi was too busy worrying about Trossard. At no stage were they reacting to Arsenal's movement up front when Martinelli would get the ball wide because Zinchenko would come here, Jorginho would then come over here as well, and suddenly it's 4-on-2. And then if these crossed over, Barnes would always be with White, but trying to stay this side of him for a counter. Jorginho would get the ball here, and Saka has it again. And now all of a sudden, after coming across here, now Christensen's left with Saka again. And it was this again and again and again that just tore Leicester to pieces, because once Saka was left 1-on-1 with Christensen, he'd get the ball to Odegaard, and Odegaard would find a pass either behind, sometimes in behind to Gabriel Martinelli here, sometimes, Zinchenko would be free here. But after 10 minutes, because of Jorginho's ability to get the ball and get rid of it quickly, Leicester just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. To the effect that Arsenal were almost like this at some stage, where yes, it's still risky. You're still leaving 3-on-2 at the back, but Arsenal had so many options, and whilst they weren't able to create that clear chance in the first half, what Trossard was able to do, playing as this number 9, they were calling him a false number 9, but he was just playing as a striker. What he was doing that Eddie Nketiah wasn't doing is that he was providing a presence here, which meant that if Odegaard got the ball, he could pass it to Trossard, who could give it to Xhaka, who could give it to Martinelli. And yes, that's all right. But what was also happening was that Trossard knew that if Odegaard was going here with the ball, he would fill in. And that if Saka was going to run in, he would end up here. And then Odegaard would be here. And vice versa. That if he ended up here, Martinelli would run here. And then Xhaka could fill in, Zinchenko would be here, and Jorginho would be here. Trossard was more able to fill in the gaps. He had a much better presence of where to be as as almost a midfielder than he did as a forward. And even though in the Villa game Arsenal scored 4, if you remember the goals, it's a breakdown from a corner that Saka scores the first goal from here. The second goal is a corner routine. The third goal is a long shot from 30 yards that bounces off the goalkeeper's head and in, Lamau. And the fourth one's a breakaway. But at no stage were Arsenal able to get the ball in that, zone 14, in that area. Inability. They were able to get the ball right and left here all game, but Villa were able to stifle them. They were able to stop the ball here and stop the ball here. Against Leicester, you had the same issue on the right, but on the left it was totally different. Because on the left, when Trossard would move over, Suter would come with him, Castagna would come with him, Zinchenko would be here, Martinelli would then run in behind. And at no stage did any of these 4 blue dots know what to do with any of these 4 red dots. Because they could be here, 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 they could be there. He would drop back. Like Trossard's heat map. He's got a lot of the ball there, but he's coming deep for it as well. 41 touches. Nketiah, 29. And, a lot of the concentration is at the far post. But he's getting the ball, in and all over the place, but he's not really a consistent threat in here like Trossard is. And as a result, Leicester were chasing shadows all game. And through this, the goal of the game, Trossard sets up the goal from here. It's a cleared ball from Gabriel. Castagna knocks it down, and Trossard's able to get nutmegging with a pass into Martinelli, who gets behind the goal, who gets behind the back line and scores. Like Leicester had no answer at all for any of the movement on the left. And then when they were tired out from the left, ball gets switched to the right to Saka, who had one-on-one with Christensen again. It's this sort of switching from left to right, back and forth, over and over again, that just wore a Leicester City side down. A side that had no interest in running around. That was just going to sit there and hope that Arsenal would just pass it round them. But they didn't. Arsenal swarmed it round them. But again, the most impressive thing about Saturday's performance was that when the ball did break, and it went long, by the time Barnes, Iheanacho and Tete got the ball and Gabriel Saliba had come back, it was Zinchenko, it was Trossard, it was Xhaka, it was Odegaard, it was Martinelli, and it was Saka. And 1 second it was 3-on-2, and the next second it's 10-on-5. This Arsenal team runs. This Arsenal team runs and runs and runs and runs. And when it does that, and you've got a Leicester side that doesn't want to pass the ball around much, 217 accurate passes. Like an absurdly low number. One shot. They were pathetic. But they were pathetic because Arsenal made them pathetic. Leicester turned up, hoping to catch Arsenal on the break. And despite the fact that Arsenal often had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players in the Leicester half, look how much Leicester could get the ball through the middle. Nothing. Even down the left, nothing. It was just down the right, down here, where they were able to attack a little bit. But even then, Gabriel had one of his best games of the season where he just covered all this space. It's just, you hope and dream for games like this where just everything comes off and a team lets you do what you want to do. But there are a couple of elephants in the room. One of them's on the bench. He actually goes there. And it's Thomas Partey, because Thomas Partey, when fit, is still Arsenal's best defensive midfielder. He's not got the passing range of Jorginho, but he is a far better tackler and covers far more ground than Jorginho can. So the temptation is with our man, Mr. Granit Xhaka here, who hasn't exactly lit the place alight over the last month. Martinelli's come back into form. Trossard is slipping into being, a much better Gabriel Jesus backup than Eddie Nketiah. He's not the striker Nketiah will be, but he had a great goal wiped out for pretty much no good reason against Leicester. Saka is back in form. The place where you would improve right now is where Xhaka is, and with Jorginho being so good at the base of the midfield, being able to knock the ball around and pick the right pass at the right time. At what stage are we going to see this? At what stage are we going to see Thomas Partey, who, remember when we bought him for 50 million, he made it perfectly clear he did not want to play here. He'd been playing there for Atletico Madrid for 5 years and he was sick of it. He was like, I want to go to Arsenal and be a box to box. I want to be far more involved in the game. And whilst for his passing ability you would want to put Jorginho there, but in essence you're losing his ability to create from deep then. Like if you put him here, you're almost pigeonholing him a little bit. In the same way that Xhaka is best as a passer here, you're now, basically putting in a slightly better passer than Xhaka with the same athletic deficiencies. He's just as quick as Xhaka, and that's not a compliment. If you put him here and you put Partey here, and then suddenly you tell this team to press, hoo boy, you can see the potential. Suddenly you've got five very quick blokes instead of four and one lad trying his best. And does Partey have the finesse to find those little balls through there? Maybe not. But it'll be interesting to see if Arteta starts deploying him here as a defensive mode, as to say, right, we'll leave Jorginho on, but we'll play Partey almost as a box to box destroyer, and then Fabio Vieira can be Odegaard's backup. It's and then Smith Rowe could possibly be Martinelli's backup instead of Trossard. Like there's so many interesting lineup changes now that Arsenal can indulge themselves in, just because Jorginho just opens up so many more lines of attack for them that I find it impossible to believe that Arteta would drop him just because he is 2023 Arteta. He is, the 2023 Pep Guardiola. He is the deep lying playmaker who sits in front of the defense and knocks the ball around. These coaches are seeing themselves, and as a result, it might be, he might have been bought in as a backup, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games before Liverpool away. Wouldn't surprise me if he started all 7. That's my analysis anyway of Arsenal's last 2 away games. If you did enjoy it, again, please leave a like. Any sort of, what's the word? Support is greatly appreciated, as always. Trying to build an audience, as everyone here on YouTube is. If you did see something during the games that you saw that maybe I didn't, or you want to talk about it with our community, leave a comment down below. Everyone's always welcome to give their opinion. If you do want these videos in your inbox on a regular basis, hit the subscribe, hit the little bell, and you'll be notified as soon as they're recorded. Everton tomorrow night. Should be a good one. Hopefully Sean Dyche doesn't bring his same manager bounce that he brought to Goodison Park 2 weeks ago. We'll see you next time, viewer. Cheers.